What is up, YouTube? Back with another video. Um, this is just how I feel, to be honest. There is no real brainstorm. There's no real like reason, trending topic, content, or like anything I want to discuss in particular. I just want to discuss how at least me, for an example, I live in regret of bad decisions, of bad choices, of mistakes, overthinking, about karma, about this. I'm not doing good enough. I'm not making enough money. I'm not I'm not successful enough. Keep in mind, I'm 20 years old, and we live in a society where they tell you that if you don't got a million by 21, 25, then well, you're not worth nothing. So I'm not trying to push it into a victim thing, but I feel like we as people, we need to stop having so much value towards temporary things in the world like money, fame, because all these things don't lead you nowhere, and they don't lead to happiness, because everything, literally, it's like a drug. It's like if you smoke a joint of weed. I'm not gonna say a joint of weed, but it's like your first time hitting a vape. You want to hit it once, and then okay, it feels good, you want to do it again, and then you want to try new flavors, and then you do it more, and 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 it leads to addiction, because there is no right amount of money, there is no right amount of fame. We're always chasing clout, likes, dopamine, monetary gain, and no one's ever truly happy with what they have. And I feel like this never ending marathon and chase towards gratification, dopamine, and worldly possessions will always leave us in a void of depression. You know, it's so many things. People unhappy in their relationships because social media says that if they're not doing this, it's not good enough. Oh, they're doing this for me. They're not doing it for you. There's no right amount of anything. People always want more and want more and want more, and that's why we'll never be happy. You know, my purpose, I'm not gonna say purpose, but my mission is to be able to help myself and others be able to live a life of fulfillment regardless of the worldly commodities and whatever situation you're put in, however amount of money you have, whatever cards you were dealt. I just want you to be able to live a good, happy life regardless of that. I don't care if you drive. I don't care if you ride a bike. I want you to be happy. I don't want your happiness to depend on what you can purchase, or where you sleep, or what type of food you eat, or what type of neighborhood you live in. I want everyone to be happy regardless of their worldly conditions, because when we're always in competition, we're never happy, because there's always going to be somebody that has more than you, always going to be somebody that is taller than you. I'm 6'2". There's somebody that's 7 foot. You feel me? Sorry for my language, but there's always going to be a dude with a bigger dick than you, with more muscles, whatever. You can never be happy trying to compete with others. There's always going to be somebody with a sharper jawline, the looks maxing situation. You're never truly going to be happy if you're so focused on comparing your life to others and living by what social media and society says that how your life should be. Whenever you start living for others, you kill your soul. And no matter how much you do it, there is no amount of living for others that will ever make you happy, because if your happiness always depends on others, it's like putting a plug in a socket. As soon as you pull it out, there's no more power. There's no more watts, no more electricity, no more connection. You feel me? You can't, once if your happiness depends on others' validations, your misery also depends on it too. So it goes both ways. So if someone says, oh, you're not doing it right, so you're a piece of shit, what are you going to do if that's what they say rather than you're doing it good? If you always depend on others' validation to be happy, you're never going to be happy because not everyone's going to validate you in positive or negative way. We need to start living for ourselves because as soon as you start living for yourself, you become your true self. You can't be your true self living through others because you're forever going to be a puppet. You will forever be a puppet living for others. You will never be yourself. Today at work, you see my hair, it's a mess. These are supposed to be braids. If you're from Florida, you know what wigs are. These look worse than wigs. I have my do-rag on to cover it because I was embarrassed at how my hair looked. Now, if I had less self-consciousness about what other people would think about my hair, maybe I would have been more happy. And I would have been able to work without worrying about them saying this guy looks crazy, this and that, But since part of me still, I guess, worries about others' opinions and things of that nature, it led to me wearing the do-rag. And that's why I feel like I'm so educated on this topic, not to make this like a therapy session, but my whole life I've been chasing validations from others, and that's led to me making choices that don't benefit me just because I was more worried about the appraisal of others, and I want to speak to the young boys without a father figure. I think that has some correlation with it too because I was way too easy to make a man my male role model or like a father figure because any man that showed me a little bit of love in a fatherly way, I wanted to give that title to because I didn't have my father growing up. So, it made me very vulnerable to be not taken advantage of sexually, but as far as to believe any man that showed me fatherly love was someone to trust. And I guess that led to, me seeking validations from others, not just in that, but in life in general. And I want to tell you that you need to live for yourself because also when you live for others, no one's going to respect you because people see through that, When you live for yourself, you make the decisions based on your soul, on your spirit, on what's best for you, regardless of what people think of it, I made a lot of bad decisions in my life, and it hurts me looking back on it because I feel like if I would have went back in time, I wouldn't have did it, and I keep beating myself up for it. And it's difficult, and I just want you to say, your past and your decisions, not even mistakes or decisions, they're not capable of villainizing you. You can't, they only get power when you give it power. When you grow from it and you accept mistakes and regrets as a learning curve rather than something to penalize you, or something to leave a stain in your character permanently, then they can't be that. Things only things only get as much power as you give them. When you don't give something power, it can't have power. You know what I'm saying? The more power you give something, the more it will have. The less power you give something, the less it will have, And we need to stop worrying about the past because it's like until someone comes and makes a time machine to go back, there's nothing you could do to change it at all. And think about it this way. If you went in the past, you would have still made the same decisions based on the information and the mind state you were in. So think of it. Think of it as learning. And you can't be a wise man without making errors, people. You cannot be a wise man without making errors. It doesn't happen. Wisdom comes from pain, wisdom comes from regret and sorrow. No wise man has no scars. Wise men have battle scars and been through a lot of things. So we need to start I'm not saying be jolly and happy about your bad decisions, but treat them as a learning curve and let you grow from them, like a gym transformation. Let that be you from your beer belly to a six-pack. Let the beer belly beat the bad decisions, and let you turning and redeem yourself and making better choices as a person, saying that's the old me. Let that become the six-pack. And every time you make a good choice, some belly fat is removed and a six-pack is forming, is in the mix of forming. Soon enough, you'll be looking like that, like the giant from Titans of, what's it called? Attack on Titans? Yeah, you'll be looking like the meat look, like the skinless looking monster, whatever. I don't watch anime like that. I probably should though. So, people, we need to stop villain. Anyways, we need to stop looking as the past and bad decisions as something that leaves a permanent scar in your life. And it doesn't mean you have to restart life. It doesn't. You can keep going. You can keep going, and look back on it and say, now I'm a new person. I've changed. I've made better decisions. And I don't need to bring up the past or talk about it. I've learned and I've moved on from it. Because I guess without bad decisions, how would you learn what's right and wrong, Look at it that way, Human beings are imperfect by nature, Jesus came to save sinners, not saints. Jesus didn't come to save saints, and just don't let your past decisions be the reason you have a shitty future. Do not. And please, people, keep chasing your dreams. It's another thing I want to speak about. Why is it that as children, we're so focused on, we could be all these things. Like when you're 5 years old, you think you could be a cowboy, an astronaut, a zombie hunter, a basketball player in the NBA, NFL player, a rapper, an actor. It's like when we turn like 17, 18, the options kind of narrow down. Okay, it's college, trade school, get a job, no more being able to be a YouTuber. Why do we allow time to dictate if our dreams are worth chasing? Why do we allow time to be the reason that our dreams are worth chasing? We need to stop letting society tell us it's too late. It's only too late when you die. If you could keep walking, you could keep breathing. If you could think about the dream, you can live the dream. If you could think about the dream, you can live the dream, people. Please chase your dreams. Do not let people above you or under you. Forget above or under you. There is no one above or under you. I don't care if they have a Bugatti and $500 million. I don't care. I don't care if they're 10 feet taller than you. We're all human. And regardless of your conditions, your situation, your financial bracket, that doesn't make someone better or worse than you. And that doesn't make you inferior to anybody. We're all human at the end of the day. And we all live different lives, and we need to learn to appreciate our lives. Until you appreciate your life, no matter how good or bad you think it is, you will never be happy, because there will always be more that you can gain. So you need to be happy with what you have, and abundance will come. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.